So this lesson we're going to try and use this new generate new auth user that we just created last lesson. We're going to try and use that in our controller. So let's jump down to our auth controller where we're going to make a new route that we can use. Something similar to this one, except that it's going to be a create route where we're going to be able to pass in a new DTO to kind of create a new auth user. So we'll just start by making a symbol. This is also going to be a post. So let's do an HTTP post right here. We want to give it a name, right? So we'll make it public. It's going to return an action result. And right away, I know what that action result is going to be. It's going to be some kind of auth user DTO right here. So let's just make that available. I'll just make a local class for this. It's down here. And the auth user DTO is just going to, for now, be a property of username. So it's going to be a string username. And it's going to be an ID. So we're going to have that as well, a property of ID. It's going to be an int ID right here. So there we go. Now we have a way to kind of pass back an auth user when we kind of have a result. We also want to make the method name, so let's just make it create right here. Now in the create, we're going to get some data from the outside in the body. So let's just make our body available right here. Whoops, there we go. So we have the from body, and there we'll pass in again a new DTO that we're getting from the outside. And again, we could probably use this one, but I'm going to make a create auth user DTO, and that's because later it might change. So I want this to be its own DTO. And again, it might be overkill, but well, I have the power to build as many of these DTOs as I want, so I'm going to do it like this. There we go. So now we have this available. I'll make another property right here. I'll make this a string, and all it'll pass in for now is going to be a username. There we go. So now we have this guy available, a create auth user DTO, and let's just call it DTO. The next thing I want to do is kind of start using my service to call this create user that we built last lesson. So I want to be able to call this create new user right here, generate new user. So let's try and do that. We'll jump back to the code. I'll make a variable right here, and auth user is what I'm going to get back. And I'm going to get that back by calling the security service dot generate auth user right here. Now in order to do that, we need to pass in a string of the username. So we'll just say DTO dot, and then we have a username on that DTO right there. That's all we have to do. Now we should have an auth user available that we can then use. And all we have to do right now is then going to be returning that auth user inside an OK. And then we'll just create a new auth user DTO right here where we can pass in this new auth user that we just created. Auth user DTO. There we go. And I just want to pass in some information here. Right now it's going to be, again, the ID is now available because we created this guy in the database now. So I can say ID is going to be the auth user's ID, and I can say the username is going to be the auth user's username, right? Auth user username. That's pretty much all I had to do in order to create this auth user right here. Now we can wrap this in try catch again like we did earlier. So let's just do that. We'll just put in a try catch, and I'll say I want to try this and see if I can do this. So I'll put it in the try, and if something goes horribly wrong, I'll just return right here a 500 like we did earlier. So I'll do return, and I'll do a status code like this, status code 500, and just contact admin or something like that again. I know this is not something I would do for a production environment. I would do something a little more clever than this, like locking the information. But for now, it's fine just to kind of test this out. At least we have a way to kind of see that something happened. And we can also kind of print this by saying console write line right here, so we can see if something goes wrong. We'll just print that error message right here in the console. There we go. So the users, at least now a developer, can see if something goes wrong. So now that all of this is done, let's try and start our server right here in debug mode, and let's just see if we actually have a running application that can now create these users for me. So it seems the application is running. Let's jump into Swagger. We have a new endpoint now, and let's go into that. And I just want to try and create a new user, and let's just call him Jinx right here. Jinx, that's a good username. I'll execute this, and hopefully I get back a new user. Whoops, I have breakpoint right there. Let's just continue for now. And let's see if Jinx are there. There we have a new guy called Jinx. And let's actually try and log in with Jinx now to see if the login also works for this user right here. So I'll do Jinx, and I'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is the default password. I'll execute this, and hopefully now we get an actual logged in token right here. But the problem is we do not. Now that is actually because I made an error with the way I save my token right now, or sorry, my salt in the database. So we're going to look at that next lesson, and we're also going to look at how we can debug our way and figure that part out. But I know this is actually because of the salt, so let's just go and fix it next lesson. But for now, we have a new endpoint that we can use to create auth users, and let's just be happy about that. So see you next time.